Hello everyone, welcome back to Art Whisper 88. Today I will be cutting up some cardstock. This is 8 by 10 cardstock I got from Staples. And it's a little bit heavier, and I wanted to use this material to make stencils. And what I do is take advantage of the dimensions of this paper. My purpose is to make stencils, and I'm creating these oval shapes, kind of elliptical shapes or egg shape forms, so I can cut them and make stencils. Here, made another one, and then another one, and I have, this is what they look like when they get cut up. They become kind of like onion rings, like so. And since they're cardstock, they're a little sturdier than copy paper. They will lift off the plate much easier. I won't be too concerned if they rip. There's less chance of these ripping or shredding because they're a little bit sturdier. So I'm going to put these guys together. Just collect them. And I will show you how I cut these. I have this cutting mat, which is used by quilters and crafters. And what I do is start from the inside with my razor blade. Okay, that's the innermost one. And I find that when you're doing this kind of operation, it's better to spin the paper instead of trying to move the blade. It's a little safer. So I go like so. Just move the paper as I go along, instead of trying to twist my hand upwards, which is not safe. There. So even these, I saved these. These might make interesting masks. So here's another of these rings. And I will show you later how I put them on the plate as stencils. So that cutting part is out of the way, and here is my newly cleaned and scrubbed jelly plate. I had applied some baby oil to clean it, and it's nice and sticky. Actually, the stickiness is an advantage when you're pulling off your paper. The stickier it is, the more likely your elements are going to transfer properly. So let me get started with the next step, which is to create a composition with these stencils. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back from a short break, and over here I have my sunny yellow. This is folk art acrylic. I've got blue green light. This is Blick acrylic, and this is yellow oxide. So these are generally lighter colors. I'm going to start with the lighter colors and then gradually work towards the deeper, darker colors, as you will see in a few minutes. So I'm going to charge the plate with these lighter colors. And hopefully I can create a interesting background. And by adding these different colors that are on the lighter scale, they create a very painterly background, which I'm after. There's not so much of that blotchy texture because these paints are not, they're not too watery. They're kind of normal consistency. And this horizontal lines that you see are from a line on the brayer. Now if you want to avoid that kind of marking on the brayer, you need to put the brayer upright like this. That's what happens when you put the brayer on the table facing down, and then the paint will dry on the table and then make a mark. Now in this case I don't mind because I'm going to cover this with textures. Well, that's why I save these containers when I buy vegetables or meat from the grocery. They provide you with these plastic trays, and I wash them and save them because they're perfect to contain a brayer like that on a table. So I'm going to do my scribbles and create some overall texture, like so. Let me do some vertical lines, some X's. Okay, so this would be the first layer. of the print, and then I will proceed with the darker layers. Okay, here's my sheet of Somerset paper. I've also seen some artists use a rolling pin. A rolling pin takes the place of a brayer as a tool to apply pressure on the paper. But I still prefer doing this by hand because I can feel the plate underneath and make sure that the pressure is applied on all four sides of the border. And as I'm doing this, I can also feel that the plate is not exactly flat. There's like very subtle dips. Okay. Now, since this is just the first layer, I'm not going to let it sit for half an hour. The marks made by the stick are very clear and they have transferred pretty well. I like that. Here's a close-up. See, even if this is a printed image, it feels very spontaneous and very painterly. That is my intention. Okay, so this dries in a few minutes and I will be back to do a second layer, and this time I will be playing with these stencils and see what kind of result I'll get. So don't go away. Okay, back after a few minutes, and here I have my onion rings, like I like to call them. I have a rough idea of where these will go. Okay. Just pressing these down so they stick to the plate, so they don't shift around when I'm applying color. Okay. So now I've looked around, and I think for contrast, this I'm going to use cadmium orange and cadmium red. I think it will work nicely with the yellowish background. So I'm going to charge the plate with that. And as I mentioned before, it's always better to put too little than to put too much. And because these stencils are cardstock and they're brightly colored, it's kind of a visual reminder as well for me to remove them when I'm done. Also, the advantage of using something that's a little heavier in terms of stencil is it really sticks to the plate when I'm doing this, when charging the color. Now, usually I use copy paper. It tends to lift up. Okay, and since this is a more sturdy stencil, I can like get in there and press down, and I'm not worried that the stencil will fall apart. Just going to add a little more because I can see some thin spots. Okay, just going to clean this, make sure it doesn't smear. Okay, now this is the important part, which I almost forgot again. So take these guys off. My one wish, maybe someday I can have a giant table and not have to keep rearranging my stuff. Okay, let's see. Time for the second pull. Again, this is just to refresh your memory. This is the first layer with the scribbles and a kind of greenish yellow. I have to be very careful because I already see the paper has a crease. And when you have a crease, that could be the beginning of a tear. And I don't want that. That would be a disaster. Okay, let me just clear this out. It's not too bad. Now the image is not as clear as in some previous prints, but that's okay. It's meant to look like a printed image. So this is the second pull, and I will see what I can do with a third layer. Maybe I will use a contrasting color like a turquoise or a phthalo blue, which I like a lot. So I'll be back in a few minutes to let this dry, and my adventure continues. Okay, back from a short coffee break, and this is the exciting part. You can see the nice contrast of the blue against the orange. And it is a very painterly effect. I like the contrast of colors. It's very lively. And so I will let this dry. I'm not sure if I will continue to do, I mean, I could, if I wanted to do a fourth layer. But I think I will let this dry first and then decide. And then most likely I will apply collage instead of doing a fourth layer. So again, we'll take a short break to let this dry, because there's still some areas here that are wet. And I feel better if everything is completely dry before I start handling the print. So don't go away. Okay, back from a short break, and I was able to put together some of my favorite tissue paper elements. And here's a piece of copy paper with my scribble lines. Here's a leftover stencil from a previous print, and I think it will fit in nicely because of the shape. And then here is a piece of tissue that I cut. So you have a positive and a negative shape. So I cut out the insides and will incorporate that into the design. So let me arrange this. This is the part where I do put some thought into the arrangement. There's a certain balance that appeals to me, and I always like to have a larger form as the main character, and then you have your supporting characters, like the smaller pieces. I think this fragment of a leaf design would work nicely here, just to give an element of figurative. And I always like it when 2 points touch like this. And then maybe like so, or I think this will work like this. So that's my composition, and I will quickly use my Mod Podge So I will work on this guy first. And this one next. Okay, and then this one. This elongated piece here. Well, this is the only part of the print that has figurative image. And lastly, it's the large tissue. Okay, that's it. I will call this piece finished. It's still wet, so it doesn't look its best, but I'll do a final shot where it is completely dry. So I'll give it a few minutes with a fan and then come back. Okay, I'm back, and this piece has dried completely. Here's a close-up. And I love the dialogue between the elements, the colors and the contrasts. And texture. So I think it turned out okay. I wasn't sure how this was going, but I'm glad it worked out all right. Again, all you subscribers and followers, my deepest appreciation, and I hope to see you next time.